Titans this week. I hope you're ready to blast through champions like never before. With one single strike of the knee, easily take them out in any content from Legend Lost Sectors, Master Lost Sectors, and even Grandmasters. This build is extremely potent and allows you to basically, like I said, one-shot champions with complete ease with very minimal setup, and it's easily probably one of the better builds this season because of that exact reason. It allows you to easily get through those Legend Lost Sectors to farm exotics or those specific weapons, and allows you to one-shot champions and Grandmasters, making those a breeze. So like, comment, and subscribe if you want to keep seeing more, as it helps me out a ton, it helps the channel out a ton, and let's get right into this video. The exotic that we're going to be using to give us the ability to one-shot these champions is going to be the exotic Peregrine Greaves, which comes with the exotic trait Peregrine Strike. All shoulder charge abilities deal bonus damage when activated in the air, damaging mini-bosses, tormentors, or champions with your shoulder charge, refunds your melee, and provides a small benefit to the airborne effectiveness stat of all weapons. Our shoulder charge abilities include Shield Bash, Shiver Strike, and the one that we're going to be focusing on for this build, Hammer Strike. After sprinting for 2 seconds and being airborne for half a second, we're going to get a buff on the side of our screen called Peregrine Strike, and that is going to increase the damage of our shoulder charge abilities by 225% against normal adds. Against mini bosses, including champions and tormentors, that buff is going to be increased to 1000%, and it's going to refund our melee ability charge on hit. We don't even have to defeat a champion or a tormentor to get our ability back, we just have to hit them. We're going to want the ability to use our Hammer Strike as much as possible against everything, so we can make better use of our class setup as a whole, and to help achieve that, we're going to take the exotic weapon Monte Carlo. This is an exotic kinetic auto rifle, which comes with the exotic trait Monte Carlo method. Dealing damage with this weapon reduces your melee cooldown and grants a chance to fully charge your melee ability with each kill. This is a no-brainer for this build, especially if we want to use our Hammer Strike on normal adds, as we want to have our melee available to us when we run into champions so we can easily one-shot it. And with that super buffed Hammer Strike, we can make use of the other trait on Monte Carlo, Markov Chain. This weapon gains increased damage from melee kills and kills with this weapon. Melee kills grant ammo for this weapon. This will give us a nice bonus to weapon damage when we do defeat targets, very similar to Swashbuckler. This also has probably the coolest catalyst in the game, which allows us to use the bayonet to deal some massive damage after we get a melee defeat. If you're not too worried about keeping your melee energy up all the time, you can easily swap this out for any good solar primary weapon. Think things like Sunshot, Zauli's Bane, and even Drang are all some very solid options to run with this build instead of Monte Carlo. For our class setup, we're going to start with Roaring Flames. Final blows with solar abilities or ignitions increase the damage of your solar abilities, and this stacks 3 times. This is honestly perfect to have for this build, as I like to use thermite grenades with this build in order to easily stack up those Roaring Flames, and then use the max stacks from this plus the buff to Peregrine Greaves makes our Hammer Strike easily blast through champions even if they aren't stunned. This is a very good combo, and without Roaring Flames at least ×1, you may struggle to get that one shot on champions in those Grandmaster and Master situations. For our second aspect, we're gonna take Soul Invictus. Solar ability Final Blows, Hammer of Soul Impacts, and defeating scorched targets create sunspots. Your abilities regenerate faster, and your super drains more slowly while standing in a sunspot, and sunspots apply scorched and deal damage to targets inside. Entering a sunspot applies restoration. This aspect is good. It's going to give us the bonus to cooldown on our abilities. It's going to help us keep our stacks of Roaring Flames. It's going to give us restoration when we pass through a sunspot, which is very good survivability. And the first fragment we're going to take is going to make it even better, because we're going to take Ember of Solace. Radiant and restoration effects applied to you have increased duration. This simply makes both the buff from our solar subclass last 50% longer, which is really nice to have, as we want our restoration to last as long as possible. And we're also going to take Ember of Mercy. When you revive an ally, you and other nearby allies gain restoration. Picking up a fire sprite grants restoration with a +10 to our resilience. This is really nice to have that extra restoration in those potentially sticky situations. It does, however, reset whatever our current timer is for restoration when we pick up a fire sprite, and doesn't add to it, which is a bit annoying, but overall this is very helpful and adds that next level of survivability that you might need in that high-end content. To help make these fire sprites, we're also going to take Ember of Searing. Defeating a scorched target grants melee energy and creates a fire sprite with a +10 to our recovery. The melee energy we get from this fragment is super helpful in this build, especially in combination with Monte Carlo, almost guaranteeing that we're gonna have our hammer strike when we need it. Plus, this fire sprite is helpful as it's gonna start restoration, and fire sprites actually give us grenade energy back, which is going to help with our last fragment, Ember of Blistering. Defeating targets with solar ignitions grants grenade energy. Our hammer strike causes an instant ignition when we defeat a target, and with the momentum we get from that hammer strike, it's going to cause their body to go flying. That ignition is going to hit other targets, and that's going to help us get our grenade energy back. And in combination with fire sprites and Soul Invictus, we're going to be able to keep our roaring flames up with ease with whatever grenades you want to use. This turns this gameplay loop into a very satisfying playstyle of hammer striking something, throwing our grenade, and then just repeating the process, occasionally using Monte Carlo to get some of that melee energy back that we need just to top us off, and then repeating that process of just grenade, melee, Monte, grenade, melee, Monte, and it's very, very effective and allows you to burn through lost sectors, which is where I use this most of the time, very, very easily, allowing you to get those rewards with ease. For our armor mod, starting on our helmet, we have Kinetic Siphon, so Monte Carlo can make orbs. If you're using a solar weapon, you can use Harmonic Siphon instead. We're also going to take both hands-on and Ashes to assets, as we're going to be feeding a bunch of combatants with both our melee and our grenade. On arms, we're going to take Grenade Kickstart, so we can use our grenades more often to fuel our Roaring Flames. We're also going to take Firepower to make orbs from our grenades, and Impact Induction, so we can get even more grenade energy when we hit things with our Shoulder Strike. On chest, we have Charged Up for more armor charge stacks, and then Resist or Reserve mods depending on what you're running. For legs, we have Stacks on Stacks, so we can get 2 stacks of armor charge for 1 orb, Better Already for health regeneration, and Innervation for even more grenade energy. On our artifact, we have Reaper for more orb generation, Powerful Attraction to pull orbs to us, and then Bomber for, you guessed it, even more grenade energy. The artifact setup on this build is really easy if you're running Monte Carlo. All you're going to need is Revitalizing Blast, so we can do even more damage to champions when we hit them with our grenade. Throw a grenade at a champion, they're going to get weakened, and then you can just run up and shoulder strike them, hammer strike them, and it's going to be making it a lot easier to get that one shot that you want. If you're deciding to run a solar primary weapon, we can also take things like Kindling Trigger, Flint Striker, and Rays of Precision to play into the solar part of this build. For stats, we're going to want to focus Resilience for the damage reduction and Discipline so we can even have more grenade regeneration, so we can throw more grenades and support this build as a whole with Roaring Flames and generating more fire sprites. Overall, I find this build to be extremely powerful, as you can literally just one-shot champions. A lot of the things that people have trouble with in this game are dealing with champions, just making sure they stayed stunned, doing enough damage to them in order to defeat them before they have to be re-stunned. And with this allows you to just run up, jump in the air for a little bit, and then just put your knee right in their face and instantly defeat them, making it so this way they're just no longer a problem. And to me, that's actually really fun. It actually took me a little while to get the rhythm of this build down when dealing with certain champions. Like with Overload champions, you gotta be quick. With Barrier champions, you really don't have to do anything except for just knee them in the face. And then with Unstoppable champions, it really depends on what Unstoppable champions you're dealing with. If you're dealing with just a normal Unstoppable Abomination, for example, they're usually pretty easy. Just make sure you stun them, because their ground slam will mess you up. And for things like the Unstoppable Phalanxes, the Taken ones, they're very difficult, because if you just clip that shield even in the slightest, it's not going to count, you're not going to get your one shot, and you're going to have to repeat that process. So just keep in mind what champions you're going against, as that's going to make this a lot easier. And with that, that is the end of this video. I really do enjoy this build, so I will be leaving the dim link down in the description, as it is really enjoyable, just really fun to use. So again, like the video if you liked it and you found it informative and you want to use this build. Comment things you would do to this build to make it better, or if you've been running this, or any other builds you want me to even take a look at, as I really want to include more community submissions. And of course, subscribe, as it helps me out a ton. Helps me out, helps the channel out, and it's really great to see all the support that I continue to get. So with that, I will see you guys in the next video.